2:20. So early. Start recording already.
So right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put 10, 11 together, and then we're going to do a little bit of 12. Okay, that's the idea that we're going to do. Okay, so we are almost at the end of Daniel, and it gets a little bit more exciting because it pushes us towards where we are living. Okay, so let's look at chapter 10 and chapter 11 now. A little bit of background. At this time, okay, at the time of Cyrus itself, okay, Cyrus have already signed the decree to allow the people to go back. Okay, so the people has gone back to Israel itself, and they were working. So a little bit of the background. What happened was the work went on for a little while. They got all the gold, all the silver, all the cups and everything with them, and they brought it back. But when they were working itself, the Samaritans and the surrounding came and wanted to join in, but Ezra refused to let them join in. Okay, Zerubbabel, Ezra, they refused to let them join in because they knew that this group of people, the religion is not a pure religion, it's a mixed religion. And they don't want this group of people to come in and then join them and then corrupt the whole system. Okay, because that's coming back to the system itself. So they refuse to let the Samaritan join in. And then the Bible in Ezra itself, it says that the Samaritan hired counselors. Okay, counselors will be something like lawyers. Okay, people who actually work in the courts. Okay, to pull strings. Okay, we have such a group of people right now in our politics also. They're quite lobbyists. Okay, so these counselors probably is one of those officials in the city itself, in the capital itself. All right, so they send a message to Cyrus, and Cyrus stopped. Okay, Cyrus was deciding whether to rescind, to take away the decree, or to stop it, or whatever. Okay, so right now at this point of time, only the order is completed. Okay, and so they were in limbo over there. And I believe that Daniel must have a news of what was happening. So at this time, at this point of time, Daniel probably, most probably, will be thinking about the temple in Jerusalem, okay, and how his people is going to suffer for it. All right, okay, that is where it is. So let's carry on. All right, again, notice what I say over here, 10 to 12 is actually one complete unit. Okay, today we're going to look at 10 and 11, introduction and the body itself. And also notice that the prophecy starts in Middle Persia. All right, just like the vision that he had in chapter 9, okay, about the ram and the goat. Okay, notice that there were only 2 animals. Okay, so again, it's very significant because if I were Daniel, I would have to put 3 animals, but he only mentioned 2. Very good reason. Okay, and then the third one he did not mention, so there was some confusion. People thought that the little horn came from the 10 horns. Okay, so there was a little problem. All right, then we learned that actually the reason why instead of in Babylon, starting from Babylon, they start in Middle Persia. Okay, the reason for that is because this vision that Daniel has begins in the Middle Persian period, and then it goes all the way down to the last days. All right, and you have some interesting sneak preview of the great controversy. All right, I thought I had something down here. Let me just. That is interesting. All right, okay. Anyway, when you study all these sections, remember a few principles that we have, especially when you go on to chapter 11. Okay, one of the principle is that the prophecies chapter 2, chapter 7, chapter 8, they are repeat and expand. Okay, I call it spiral. So every time you look at the prophecy, we like to compare. Okay, compare so that we understand what's happening. All right. If you don't do that, what happens is that then we will have a problem knowing who the ram is, who the goat is. Okay, because no name was mentioned. In chapter 11, again, If we don't compare, we do not know what is all these people talking about. Who is the he? Who is him? Okay, it's very confusing. All right, so that's one of the principles we have. We compare. Is a spiral, repeats everything that we learned in chapter 2, chapter 7, chapter 9, or chapter 8, sorry. Okay, so they are all related. All right. Okay, let's with that setting, I think that should be sufficient. Well, one more thing that we're going to have to emphasize for these two chapters. You look at the statue, right? If you go to the foot itself, okay, you will find that somewhere near the at the bottom of the leg where the foot is, okay, the Messiah was born. Okay, so what we do is this: the kingdoms and all those kings that is before the Messiah, they are political powers. Okay, many political powers. But after the Messiah comes in, you notice that there's a shift towards religious powers. Okay, so bear this in mind. And also, they refer to a system rather than a person, unlike the earlier ones. Earlier ones, when they talk about Babylon, they talk about Nebuchadnezzar. When they talk about Greece, they talk about Alexander. But after the Messiah comes in, whenever they talk about the king or the animals or the beasts, they talked about the whole system, the whole empire. Okay, so bear that in mind as we go into chapter 10 and 11. All right, let's go start with chapter 10 now. Okay, the vision is on the third year of Cyrus. Okay, the third year of Cyrus itself. So Cyrus had already sent out the decree, and like I said, he just received the counselor's complaint. Okay, that was the time. Okay, all right, let's read on. Okay, but it's true the time appointed was long. Okay, and he understood the thing and he understood the vision. Now, this word understand, understood, okay, seems to be a main point in these two chapters. Understand, then he don't understand. He understand, don't understand. We're going to look at that. Okay, quite interesting. Also, I noticed that the visions in chapter 10 and 11 is the mare. Okay, mare. Unlike the Zazom, Zazom is the whole 2,300. Okay, the vision that he sees. The mare got two specific meaning. One is they refers to the 70 weeks prophecy, which Gabriel had to explain to Daniel. Also, the mare can also be translated as the appearance. Okay, and we find that in this particular chapter itself, that mare refers to the appearance of God. Okay, so he understood, he sort of understood what the 70 weeks means. Okay, now if you look at Daniel 8, Daniel 9, 10 and 11, you find that this word understand comes in very often. So let's look at it. Okay, many times when we read the book of Daniel or the book of Revelation, we just don't understand. We just don't know why we don't understand. So we're going to look at Daniel. Okay, Daniel is the wise man, one of the wisest men in Babylon. Okay, he had an angel to come and interpret for him. Let's see how was his reaction. In chapter 8, okay, in verse 16, there was a man who was standing in the river itself who told Gabriel, okay, and that man actually is Jesus. Gabriel make this man to understand. Okay, so the angel had the commission to make Daniel understand. Gabriel went to him, understand, oh man, again the word understand, and tell him about the vision, how it's going to happen until the last day. Look at verse 27. What happened to Daniel? Daniel fainted. Okay, he dropped as dead. Okay, he was astonished at the vision and he couldn't understand. Okay, so when we read the Bible, Daniel and Revelation, we don't understand, don't feel bad. Okay, because that is the same cycle that Daniel had to go through. Okay, he understands certain part, and then suddenly when they explain everything, he couldn't understand it. Same in chapter 9, it continues. Okay, Daniel understands certain part of the prophecy. In this particular case, the 70 years prophecy. Okay, and he was very confident. He knew that it was going to happen, so he started to pray to God and all those things. But what happens in verse 23? Okay, he doesn't understand, so angel had to come and explain it to him again. Okay, so the angel came and explained everything again, and then in the next chapter, he says that he just read it and he understood what this was all about. He was referring to the 70 weeks prophecy. Okay, so again, we go through the cycle. He understood, then suddenly he had to get more meaning to it because he only understand a small part. Then when the whole part was there, he had to go through everything again. And in this case, he said he understand, right? Let's look what happens. Okay, all right. He didn't fully understand, so the angel had to come back again and explain to him. Okay, understand this, what I'm going to tell you. Okay, explain to him again. Okay, and then in same chapter in verse 12 and 14, okay, we found that Gabriel report. Okay, Daniel has already understood. Okay, because he set up in his heart to understand. Okay, so this understanding is a big issue. So do not get discouraged when you read, you don't understand. Okay, it takes a lot of effort, a lot of time. I believe Daniel studied this many, many times. Okay, finally, the encouragement is found in Daniel 12:10. Okay, in Daniel 12:10, Daniel says that there'll be many people who will be tried. Some of them will be martyred. Okay, they'll be made pure. Okay, and then the last part he says this: none of the wicked shall understand, but the wise shall understand. All right, so it takes time and effort to go through. Eventually, okay, the wise refers to the servants of God. The wise will understand. Okay, so but the thing is, you have to do like what Daniel does. You have to put in the effort to understand. Okay, all right. So that was just to tell you that don't worry about not understanding. Someone has said that, oh, I don't understand. Read and read, I don't understand. Okay, same with Daniel. They don't understand. It takes a long while to understand. All right. Okay. Let's go on to the next verse. Okay, verse 2. All right. In those days, I, Daniel, was mourning for 3 full weeks. Okay. Now, what was he mourning about? Why was he fasting? Okay, what is so traumatic? What is that? Okay, because just a little bit before he said he understood the vision, the whole vision. So it wasn't the vision that was troubling him. Something else was troubling him. Okay, I believe that looking at the history and the time itself, I believe that he was actually thinking about the problem in Jerusalem. All right, and so he was mourning for 3 full weeks. Notice that there's an emphasis on the full weeks. Okay, might be a clue over there. All right, so he has a little bit of fast. Now, in the Jewish context, when they said a full weeks, they mean that it must be from day 1 to day 7. Okay, that's a full week, not day 2 to day 8. That's not part of a full week. That's 1.5 weeks, and in their inclusive reckoning is 2 weeks. So it starts from Friday evening to, sorry, yeah, I make a mistake over there. Okay, yeah, Saturday evening. That's right. After the Sabbath, after the Sabbath to the next Sabbath, that is 1 whole week. Okay, so what happened is that Sabbath, the last Sabbath, is the Sabbath that he had a vision. All right, so he has that. All right, so the reason why he was worrying about is because of Jerusalem. Okay, I told you the background just a little while ago. Okay, and so this must be what Daniel must be fasting about. Daniel is a very compassionate man. Okay, he worries a lot about his people. Okay, even though he cannot go back to Jerusalem, he still checked on them and he prayed for them. He pleaded the whole chapter, beginning of chapter 9, was pleading for them. Okay, so that is the thing that Daniel must be mourning and praying about. Okay, 3 weeks later, okay, Daniel probably started on the 3rd day of the first month, Nisan. Okay, then 3 weeks later, 21 days later, on the 24th day, okay, he was at the riverside at the Tigris River, the Tigris and the Euphrates River. Okay, he was there with his friends. Okay, he was there with his friends. And then this is where the Mari appeared. This is where the appearance of God comes in. Okay, he looked up, he lifted his eyes and he saw a man clothed in linen. Okay, usually when we talk of linen, we think about the priests. Okay, the priests are dressed in linen. Then he has the golden belt, okay, with fine gold. And the whole body was shining like pearl, and the face was shining like lightning. The eyes was like lamb, okay. And then the hand and feet were brass, and his voice was a voice of multitude. Now, in theology, in theological circle, they call it the theophany. A theophany simply means that God appears in person, okay, in the vision, okay. And there are a few people, which prophets actually had that, okay. Ezekiel, who else is that? John the Revelator, okay, also had this theophany, that God appeared in his form and to the prophet itself. Okay, all right. Now, something interesting. Okay, the Feast of Unleavened Bread is on the 4th to the 14th of the first month. Passover is on the 15th of the first month. Okay, and all these are God's appointed times. Okay, Moed is God's appointed time. So what happened was that Daniel fasted until the 24th. Okay, that was 4th to 24th. Okay, and he missed the Feast of Unleavened Bread. He missed the Passover. Okay, so he did not feast on those things itself. He was fasting over that period of time. Okay, so that is something that I don't know whether there's any significance, but that is something interesting that we can look at it. Okay, all right. I mentioned that John also had a theophany in Revelation chapter 1. And if you compare this and with Ezekiel's visions, you find that there are lots of similarity. Okay, for one, he has the golden belt. Okay, his hair face is very bright. The eye is like fire. Okay, in this case, they say eyes was like fire. The other one was like light. Okay, the feet brass, and the voice sounds of many waters. Daniel says it's like the multitude. Okay, so there are a lot of similarities. Now, the other similarity is that I don't know whether I think right. Okay, the other similarity is, do you know which day John had a vision of this vision of God? Can you remember? Revelation 1. It was on the Lord's Day. Okay, so Lord's Day is not Sunday, like many of the Christians teach. Okay, the Lord's Day refers to the Sabbath, for the Lord is also Lord of the Sabbath. Okay, so John had a vision on Saturday, on Sabbath. Daniel also had a vision on the Sabbath itself. Okay, so there's some similarities between the two. Both of them saw God. Okay, and the reaction was very similar. He couldn't handle that the glory that of God. Okay, all right. In
You're breaking off, no, Winky?
He is frozen, right?
Yeah, he's frozen, yeah. Doris, you want to tell your husband?
Yeah, told him already.
He coming back.
Oh, oh no, his left battery died. He didn't plug in. I think he's gonna plug in.
Okay. Didn't put in the main plug lah.
Okay, now prepare for your next quiz. So you plug in. How long it take?
Turning on now. 3 minutes.
So it take a while.
2-3 minutes lah. It's okay lah.
2-3 minutes.
Okay, close your eyes.
Go to sleep. Snooze for 3 minutes. Go snooze first.
Break.
Well, don't forget to get up, that's all.
Once I really sleep, cannot get out already.
That's what I'm trying to say. After that, you just close your eye and that's it, you know.
May, was there a lot of people at church today?
No, not many.
Same, huh?
Did you have to drive your Indonesian couple to church again?
Yeah.
That's why you were on the car when he was asking
Yeah.
you're asking you to something, right?
Yeah.
There are some visitors that came on board, is it?
No.
No? Oh, okay. They had some lunch in the
Yeah, they have, because they usually have lunch there. You know, Anna's Albert's sister. And yeah.
Okay, that's Albert's sister, is it? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Look. Okay.
And Juliet was there today.
Yep.
And family.
Okay.
Pastor usually have lunch at church, right?
Yeah. That's why they I think Juliet and Pastor, brought their lunch.
And the young people were having their lunch there too?
Yeah, because they have youth meeting at 1:30, I think. Yeah.
They are practicing for this coming Sabbath, but they are handling the Sabbath program, I think.
Oh yeah. You take the service, is it?
No. Yeah, the youth is taking the service. Yes, you're right.
Yeah.
May, I have to do flowers on the 5th. Do we still do flowers?
Of course not. You
Not.
can put your money in donation in the church budget.
Huh? Put in the church budget. Oh,
Put the money in church budget.
okay.
Yeah, if you want to.
Okay. No, I'm just wondering whether you still do flowers. I don't remember.
You coming next week, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the week after, huh?
You'll be there next week, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Gonna snooze.
Can you snooze now? Just now.
Well, I can't really snooze in the afternoon.
No.
Oh, really? I can actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know lah. You can snooze anyway, just like Henry. And then if I say, "Wow, how come you can sleep anyway?" His answer always, "Army train lah."
Hey, Henry is so quiet, so he must be snoring off, is it? Or what?
You ask him, Henry, wake up.
No, I'm around, just walking to keep myself awake.
Okay. All right.
Oh,
Okay,
when he's back.
Okay, sorry about that. I don't know what happened. The computer went out. Then when I put my password in, they said wrong password.
That's normal.
Must be getting old. Couldn't write my wrong password. Anyway, good thing I have a reserved password there. All right, anyway, let me just get back into this one here. Okay. Anyway, rush through. Let's see what. Okay. Sorry to do that. That's fine. Okay. All right. Anyway, let me go on. Okay, so I was telling you that different prophets had this vision. In Review and Herald, okay, Ellen G. White says that image that Daniel and John saw was actually the Son of God. Okay, he was the Son of God that was being revealed. So that is something that that you want to know. And there must be something important. Otherwise, why would Jesus appear? Okay, so there must be important things over here as well as earlier chapter when Jesus appeared in the middle of the river. So those prophecies that were mentioned are very important. Okay, all right. Then Daniel reported this other thing. It was Daniel who saw this vision, this appearance of Jesus or of Jesus itself. Okay, he called it Mare, and no one else saw that vision. Okay, and then the reason why was because when that vision appeared, the whole place shook. All right, and everybody ran away, and that is very similar to the experience that Saul had. Okay, when Jesus spoke to him, nobody else understood that. Okay, only Saul understood the voice. All the rest was just hearing, or all the rest hear rumblings and so on. Okay, so Daniel's friend all ran away. Only Daniel saw that vision. And when he saw that vision, when he saw God, his reaction was very, very similar to John the Revelator, John the Beloved. Okay, all his beauty, all his strength turned into corruption. In other words, he lost all his strength. Okay, and then he heard, the voice of this person speaking to him. Okay, and then he said, I was in deep sleep. Okay, now there is no Hebrew word for fainting. Apparently, their medical thing doesn't have the word faint. Okay, I was in a deep sleep and I fell on my face towards the ground. He fainted. Okay, in other words, he fainted. Okay, next moment. Okay, all right, it's the same experience with all the other people. Okay, like for example, when the disciples saw Jesus, Moses, and Elijah on the Mount of Transfiguration, they fell on their faces. They were filled with fear. Okay, again, Jesus had to tell them, rise, no fear. Okay, same with John. When John saw Jesus, he fell as dead. Okay, again, Jesus had to come and say, fear not. Okay, Daniel, he was recorded at least 3 times in this chapter itself and next chapter. Okay, he even stopped breathing. Okay, so apparently whenever people see the glory, we cannot handle it. Okay, and that is why Isaiah, when he saw the vision, he said, woe am I. Okay, no human can handle it. Then Gabriel came and then touched Daniel and raised Daniel up. Okay, and then here is something that was revealed that was very interesting. Okay, behind the scene happening. Many times when we pray, we thought that, oh, God didn't answer our prayer. Okay, or our prayer is not important. Daniel says this. Okay, understand that the word I speak. Okay, for he stand to him and he stood up. And this is what he said. On the very first day that Daniel prayed, okay, he was given the commission to come to Daniel to answer his prayer. Okay, so when we pray, God hears our prayer. He commissioned our angels to come to us and answer our prayer too. Okay, so there was no delay. But in this case itself, there was something else that was very important. Now, remember what Daniel was praying about. What was Daniel praying about? Daniel was praying about his people and the temple. All right, so that was what Daniel was praying. So Gabriel was actually answering or making the answer for Daniel, because Daniel was praying for his people. Gabriel went to the king, okay, and this is what he says in verse 13. But the prince of the kingdom of Persia withstood me 21 days. Okay, so the moment Daniel started praying, okay, Gabriel was in Persia challenging this prince. Okay, who is this prince? Notice that there are 2 princes over there. First part is the prince of Persia. The second part is Michael, the chief prince. Okay, the chief of the prince. All right. So what is happening over here is that Gabriel is reviewing to us what actually happens in the background when we pray or when we ask for anything. God is answering that prayer. Okay, when we pray for somebody, angels are working for it. Okay, so anyway, we know Michael, we know who Michael is. Michael is, his name means who is like God, or who is, or he's like God, he's God himself. Okay, that's Michael. Okay, I'm not going to spend time on that one itself. Through the whole week, I really went through that. Okay, here goes. Now, who is the prince of the kingdom of Persia? Who is the prince of Greece? Apparently, Satan has control of a lot of the kings, the leaders. Okay, and so he take himself as the prince. Okay, how do I know it was Satan personally? Well, because Gabriel is the highest right now, the highest in rank in heaven. Before Satan fell, Satan was above Gabriel. So the only person who can withstand Gabriel for 21 days, who dare to stand and resist Gabriel for 21 days, has to be someone who is a little bit more superior than Gabriel. All right, so it must be Satan, Lucifer. Okay, and apparently there are other princes of Greece and other things. So just like in the Bible, it mentioned, we think we see a lot of things. We thought to understand a lot of things, but there are lots of things that's beyond our eyes. Principalities, powers, prince of the air. Okay, things that we don't understand, they are actually the rulers of the earth. Okay, things that are happening. If you look at what's happening in the US right now, I believe that there is two powers fighting. Okay, God is trying to persuade, okay, the people to go one direction. The devil must be trying to persuade the other people to go their direction. In fact, Satan seems to be winning. Okay, in that he actually gets all those Democrat leaders to actually cheat and create fraud. I do not know who are the persons, but apparently, if you look behind the scene, instead of just looking at the scene, look behind the scene, you'll see the same thing happening. Okay, so Gabriel was trying to persuade the king Cyrus, and Satan was fighting against him until Michael came. All right, until Michael came. And Michael is far more powerful than Satan himself, and so they won. Okay, and so Cyrus was persuaded. Okay, because Satan cannot interfere, Cyrus was persuaded not to rescind that building. He sort of left it alone. Okay, so yeah, the people in Ezra and his people were still in limbo, but he did not say, no, you cannot do that. Okay, so all these were recorded in his records. Okay, and what happened was that after him, another king, we'll talk about the king. Okay, Darius came, and Darius was reading. He got nothing to do, so he was reading through the records, and he found this first decree. Okay, and then he allowed the people to go back and continue to do what they were doing. All right, so that was the prayer that Daniel was praying. Okay, now over here, Ellen G. White says that there's a lot of heavenly agencies. Okay, they are up there fighting for our good, fighting so that God's plan will be fulfilled. Okay, like the king of Persia, okay, and Pharaoh and others. All right, so what we have to do is we have to remember that last part. We have to humble ourselves before God. Okay, only then can God's servant advance God's work. All right, we cannot depend on our effort. We can only depend on God. So we have to go back and then go in faith. All right, there will be a lot of things that will be happening very soon. Okay, and if you don't have this kind of faith, we think that, oh, you're going to lose out. You're going to be lost. Okay, all right, I'm going to give you a few quotes from Spirit of Prophecy that talks about it. I'm just going to run through quickly. Okay, if you want, you can actually go back and look at the recording and read it in details. But Ellen G. White saw that lots of things that are happening behind the scene. Okay, we cannot see it. We don't have the eye to see it, but heavenly agencies are working on the kings, on the rulers, even on ourselves. Okay, while heavenly angels are working on that, satanic agencies are also working on the mind. Okay, so there are two forces, okay, working on the mind itself. And so for us, we have to make sure that we are on the right side. Otherwise, we can be overwhelmed by that evil forces. Okay, so right now, the heavenly agency and the satanic agencies are working on all the rulers. Okay, you look at what's happening in the world today. All right, all the leaders, China, okay, the leaders are making decisions. Okay, he's not too happy of what's happening, but again, he's being influenced. Okay, you look in Europe and Britain. Okay, Boris Johnson. Okay, again, he's in a dilemma. He's out, but at the same time, he's in. Okay, so things like that is happening all over the world. Recently, where was that? Israel just flew into Syria and bombed some of the Iranians' military posts. Okay, and then Iranians are not too happy. All right, they want to take revenge. So things are happening. All the leaders in the world right now are being influenced. Okay, another interesting character to watch is Macron. Okay, right now in EU, the two powerful countries are Germany and France. Okay, Germany is sort of losing some of the score, but I noticed that France is speaking up a lot more. Okay, and we'll find out why later on in the study. Okay, they're speaking more. So watch out for all these things happening in the world, because everything is moving into place. All right, everything is coming into position for the sudden working. Okay, and Ellen G. White says that the thing that is going to happen will happen rapidly. Okay, all right. So go back to Daniel. Daniel became dumb. Okay, he was so overwhelmed that he lost his sense of speaking. He can't speak. Okay, and then what happened is Gabriel came and touched his lips and he opened the mouth, and then he spoke. Okay, when he spoke himself, he was again overwhelmed by the vision that he had. Okay, and then again he lost his strength. Okay, so that is what was happening to Daniel. Okay, he couldn't handle now. Bear in mind that the things that we read in Daniel is not the complete visions. There are lots of details that were left out. Okay, Daniel himself said, I only write in summary. Okay, the main points. In chapter 11, I believe, okay, when it comes to chapter 11, I talk about that. Okay, he was writing what he hears, but I believe that the visions was happening in front of him, so he can see who the he is, who's that other he, who's the other he. We don't have the vision, we only got the words. So we have to guess who are the he's. Okay, when we come to that, we'll talk about that. Okay, let me go on. Okay, again, Gabriel came down here and then told him tell him shalom, be strong. Okay, and then Daniel, when he was strengthened, said, let my Lord speak. Okay, so this is what Daniel says. All right. Again, Daniel revealed the great controversy. He said that now he had come to show him what has happened, okay? But he still had to go back. Okay, he still had to go back to convince the prince of Persia and then later the prince of Greece. It's interesting how God actually moved the kings according to his visions. Okay, first he had to tell the prince of Persia not to give up, okay, to release the people of Israel. Then he had to go all the way back to Greece to convince the king to come, okay, and take over Persia, because that was what the prophecy said. And Satan is going against that prophecy. Satan knew the prophecy, okay, and Satan does everything he can to stop that from happening. Okay, so here again, Gabriel revealed what was happening in the background. Okay, the angels are actually influencing all the leaders in the world to do the thing that is correct. Okay, and there is only one most powerful person. Okay, Michael. And notice that Michael is your prince. In other words, Michael is the prince of Israel. Okay, all right. Right, that was a quick one. Any questions on chapter 10? Anyone has any questions?
No.
Okay, let me open my chapter 11. Okay, chapter 11 is one of the clearest chapter that is there, but also one of the most confusing chapters. Okay, and if you don't understand the principle behind, you find that it's going to be very confusing. That's why people who read chapter 11 have a lot of problems because of the way Daniel writes it. Remember what I said, Daniel, when he was listening to Gabriel, when Gabriel was explaining all this, he was also looking at what was happening. So he has both the vision and the voice, okay? But they seem to be very different, okay? So to understand chapter 11, okay, we have to understand, okay, I already went through this in the beginning, okay? On that itself, I want to see the other one, okay? All right, you have to go back to chapter 2, chapter 7, chapter 9 to compare, okay? In chapter 2, you find that the goal is Babylon, but in 8 and 11 and 12, they don't mention about that because the prophecies of the 2,300 days starts from the Persian. So the last two visions starts with the Persian. So bear in mind, okay, when you read chapter 11 and 12, it must synchronize with the other visions. Okay, what happened is that in some of the other groups, okay, when they try to synchronize, and then suddenly when they couldn't answer, you know what they do? They say, oh, there's a gap theory. Okay, it happens somewhere in the future or something else. Okay, so it's going to be difficult. So when you interpret it, you must be consistent. Okay, when you interpret it, it must be consistent. The whole line, chapter 2, chapter 7, chapter 8 must link with the chapter 11 and 12. Okay, only when you link it, then you sort of understand it a little bit better, who is what, who is next. Okay, all right, this is not very clear. Let me just go on to this one here. So that's what I did over here. Okay, I compared the visions that was given, and then I compared this chapter, and then you find that it actually synchronizes very well. Okay, the first kingdom in the ram itself represents Persia. In chapter 11, the first two verses talks about Persia. Okay, then in the second kingdom after Persia was Greece. In verse 4, verse 5 to 15, they talk about Greece. Okay, then you go back to the vision itself. Okay, after Greece, the vision says there is another empire called Rome. Okay, called Rome itself. And again, if you look at chapter 11 itself, they must sort of go with that. Okay, it must flow with that. So bear this in mind when we study. Okay, link all these prophecies. Okay, they're all linked. You cannot jump here and jump there like some of these other people. Okay, so that is something that you want to learn. Okay, don't jump about. You always, yeah. God has this particular, what you call that, rule in the Bible. Okay, whenever he gives anything, he will give you 2 or 3 witnesses to prove it. Okay, so in this case, all the visions actually prove they're all related. It's not different visions. Okay, so when you study, you see in this chapter there's so many details over there, but people tend to jump here and there. They don't follow the previous visions in terms of the timeline. Okay, so I'm following this timeline here. Okay, that goes according to the statue, according to the 4 B's and so on. All right, so you'll find that it will flow, all right, accordingly. Okay, all right, now that we understand that, let me just go on. Now again, please stop me, okay, if you don't understand anything, because there's a lot of things that are there and I might not explain it as fluently. So don't be afraid to stop me. Okay, now the other principle that I mentioned is that literal will eventually goes on the last day to spiritual. Okay, if you remember Daniel's dream, the lion, the bear, okay, the leopard and then the beast. Okay, and Daniel saw it, he saw it in this direction. Okay, lion first and then the beast last. Then when John looked at it, John seems to see the thing but in the opposite direction. Okay, on opposite direction. So the animals came opposite. So we realized that actually Daniel was looking forward. John was looking backwards at the same thing. Okay, so they're looking at the same thing but from different direction. John's vision in Revelation is a little bit more pertaining to the last days. Okay, like Daniel saw 4 beasts. John only saw 1 beast with all the animals on it as a head. He even saw the horns on the animal itself. Okay, so he looked at it differently and he looked at it more to the last days thing. So literal in the last days will always be spiritual. Okay, and when they talk about battle, fighting and so on, we mentioned this before, that it's not just the physical fighting. Okay, it is more of the battle of the mind. Worship will be the main theme in the last days itself. Okay, bear that in mind. Worship. Okay, everything that we are fighting for in the last days is based or just on worship. Satan wants the worship, but God deserves it. Okay, so that is the fight for the worship, especially when we come to the last part, verse 40 onwards. Anyway, let me just go on. Okay, so Daniel explains the vision. Okay, like I said, Daniel was listening to the vision, but I believe that the vision was running in front of his face. Okay, and so when he was writing down, he don't realize that we cannot see the vision. And so we get a little bit confused. Okay, but anyway, Gabriel was there. Gabriel said that he actually came the first year of Darius to support and strengthen Darius. Okay, I suspect, if you remember the story of Daniel and the lions, okay, the first year of Darius, Daniel was thrown the lion. I suspect that this was the time when Gabriel was there to support, strengthen Darius. Okay, so that is the thing itself, and then he go on. All right, here we go. Here we start. Okay. Remember that in Daniel's visions, there were only 2 animals, the ram and the goat. And I asked the question, why only 2? All right, here is why. Because in the last days, when you look back, there will only be 2 main powers, 2 main systems that are fighting. Namely, in Daniel, they look at it as the king of the north, king of the south. King of the north, king of the south. Okay, basically that's what it is. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to look at the first one, Persia, Greece, and then we start looking at north and south. Okay, now, there's a lot of details in this prophecy. Okay, I'm going to run through. Daniel says that there are 3 kings to come. Okay, right now it is Cyrus. After Cyrus, there's 3 more kings. And then the 4th one will be far richer than all of them. And he's the one who caused a lot of problem in Greece. Okay, and history bears that. Okay, after Cyrus itself, there came 3 more kings. Cambyses. Cambyses is the son of Cyrus. Okay, Cambyses was the king, and then what happened was in Babylon, in Egypt, there was some problems. So Cambyses wants to go down to Egypt, okay, and take care of it. But in those old days, if you leave your throne, somebody will come and take over the throne. Okay, Cambyses has a brother, Smerdis. So what Cambyses did was this. Cambyses went and killed his own brother so that no one can claim the throne. Then Cambyses went down south to Egypt. When he was there fighting, he was winning the war. Another person called Badia came and pretends to be Smerdis. So in history books, you'll find a king called Pseudo-Smerdis. Okay, Pseudo-Smerdis. That is Badia. He pretended to be Smerdis and he took over the throne. Okay, and he actually was ruling for a short while, and Cambyses heard about it. Cambyses came back. Now, what happened also, this is again tradition. When Cambyses was in Egypt, he destroyed the golden calf. Okay, the golden calf, that's the god of Egypt. And what happened was on his way back, he was poked. He was actually scraped by an animal. I can't remember, or it's most likely a cow. Okay, and then somehow he died from that wound. And the Egyptians said, oh, this is the vengeance of the gods. Anyway, Cambyses died. But his son, Darius, came, actually not quite his son. Yeah, his son. His son Darius came and chased Pseudo-Smyrtis and took over the place. So he had 3 kings. After Cyrus, he had 3 kings. Cambyses, Pseudo-Smyrtis, and then Darius I. Darius I is one of the more powerful kings. Darius I was the one who gave the 2nd decree to let the Israelites go back. Okay, I hope all these things are falling into your mind. Okay, you can see the complete picture.
Is he frozen again?
Yeah, we lost him again.
I don't know what happened. I'm going to go and ask him already. Because he's still talking.
Okay. All right,
Okay,
yeah, I can
come
hear
back.
them.
Restart again.
Where was I
Rewind.
cut? Where was I cut off?
About at least 30 seconds away before.
All right. Okay, he has 3 kings. Okay, his prophecy was there were 3 kings. Okay, after Cyrus. So Cyrus and then Cambyses, the son. Cambyses killed his brother and went to Egypt. Someone came, Badia came, and pretended to be Smyrtis and took the throne. Okay, Cambyses tried to come back, but he died before he reached home. And then Darius, the son, and his army came and then destroyed the Smyrtis, killed Smyrtis, Pseudo-Smyrtis and his general, killed them off and took over. Darius was a powerful king. Okay, Darius was the one who gave the 2nd decree to allow Israel to go back. Okay, to continue building the temple. That was a Darius. Okay, then in the vision, Daniel says there will be a 4th. Okay, the 4th will be far richer, and the 4th is the one who creates problems. Now, in the book of Esther, okay, you read the book of Esther, chapter 1 and so on, you notice something. There was a big feast. The king had a big feast, okay, and he invited everybody there and they're drinking and all those. You know what was the feast about? Anybody? Okay, that feast was actually a planning feast where all the kings came together and they're planning the war. Okay, it took about a few years to plan the war itself. Okay, and then of course in Esther we read the story of Vashti, who was not listening to the king itself, and then she was dethroned. Okay, and then in the next chapter we read about Esther. Now, between the time as Vashti was dethroned until Queen Esther, there was actually 7 years interval. But when you read Esther, you don't realize it. Okay, what happened in this interval? Okay, Ahasuerus, that's Exodus number 1. He went to make war with the Greece. I don't know why he does that. Okay, he thought that maybe he wanted to wipe out all those things down. At that time, Greece was a small little city all over. It's not one whole empire. So Ahasuerus or Sextus went over there to provoke them. That was exactly what the Bible says. Okay, the 4th king shall be more powerful. Okay, and he more richer, and he shall stir up the rams of Grecia. He went in there and he created a lot of problems. All right, so there are a few very famous battles in history. I don't know whether you have read about this battle. One of them is the Battle of Thermopylae. Okay, where the Persian army, millions of them, I think in history books it's 5 million people came, and they wanted to go into and they attacked the cities. Okay, they came to Spartan, but to reach Sparta, they have to go through a gap, and then you have these 300 men who stood at the gap and then fight off the soldiers so the Persian cannot go through until somebody came and betrayed them. You know, the Greeks, they are not always united. So someone from another city came and then brought the Persian to go through the mountains and then come from the back. Okay, so that was a very famous battle of Thermopylae in history. There is another battle that was also quite famous, called the Battle of Salamis. Okay, this one was a sea battle. The Persian ships are very big. The Greece, their ships are smaller, but faster. So what happened was the Greece ran away. Now it was a trap. Okay, the Persian didn't realize, they thought they were winning. So the Persians giant ship came in and chased after these small little ships. Okay, it came to a point where the water was so shallow, the big Persian ships couldn't move. That was when the Greeks turned around and then destroyed those ships, and the Persian war lost. Okay, and then of course Texas went back to Persia. All right, he went back to Persia. Now, you notice that right after verse 2, and then in verse 3, they said, and the mighty king shall stand now. Remember in the beginning, I told you this principle, okay, where when two countries or two kings are fighting, okay, the one that come and attack is called the he, okay, the pronoun that is given is for that first king that comes, okay, and they fight. If the first king wins, the next pronoun refers to that first king. But if the king loses, the he, the pronoun, will now go to the victor. Okay, so you see in verse 2, the king of Persia came in. Okay, he was the subject, Persian king. In verse 3, because what happened was when Xerxes was defeated, the he, the pronoun, the subject went to the winner. The winner was the Greece. So in verse 3, the subject now becomes Greece, even though I think there were 7 to 11 kings. Okay, there were other kings that comes after Xerxes. Okay, some of them are not so capable, but there's still kings down there. So there are many kings, but none of them were mentioned in Daniel. Okay, straight away the subject shift over to the winner. The winner was Alexander. So this is the principle that we will use to understand the he. Okay, the king of the north went there, he, and then and so on. So we use this principle to explain who the he is. Otherwise, it gets very confusing. All right. So verse 3, and a mighty king. So now the king is no longer Persian king. Okay, because Persia lost. Alexander took over his place. All right. And I think we spent quite a lot of time on Alexander. You understand this very well. When Alexander died, his son was too young to become ruler. His brother was, I think there's some mental problem with the brother, so the brother cannot rule. So his general came over and fought, okay, and finally they divided into 4 different empires, okay, and so there are 4 different parts, okay, so Cassandra, Lysimachus, Seleucia, and Ptolemy, 4 of them. Now, what happened was that while there were 4 horns, eventually what happened is that the northern kingdom, the Syrian kingdom, the Seleucids, came and took over the other 2, Cassandra and Lysimachus. So eventually there were only 2 kingdoms, okay? And right in the middle is Judah. So the one that comes from the north is called the king of the north. Ptolemy from Egypt comes from the south, so they are called the king of the south. Okay, so bear that in mind. So we have this, okay, Seleucus eventually conquered the rest, and so it becomes the king of the north. Ptolemy becomes the king of the south. So that's why there were 2 pieces, king of the north, king of the south. Okay, only 2 pieces, not 3 or 4, whatever. Okay, so it ties in with the dreams, the visions of Daniel. All right, now, many times we look in history, we say, oh, between Malachi and Matthew, there's no record of anything that happened to the Israelites. Actually, there is. Okay, all the events in Daniel 11, actually, most of them refers to this era. Okay, between Malachi and Matthew. Okay, a very useful book that I have used is the Uriah Smith's Daniel and Revelation. It's very much clearer than what I explained over here. So if you have a chance, go and upload it from anywhere. Okay, it's free on the net. Daniel and Revelation by Uriah Smith. Okay, very good book. Okay, and what happened is that to understand the history that's going on, okay, we have to look at the kings. And I have on the left side of the screen itself, I have Ptolemy. Ptolemy are the kings of the south. Okay, the kings on the north have two names, either Seleucus or Antiochus. Antiochus. Okay, two names. So if you see Seleucus or you see Antiochus, they are referring to kings from the north. Okay, Ptolemy is kings of the south. Okay, the numbers is put there by historians for easy reference, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, but they have a name. Okay, Ptolemy 1 is called Soter. Okay, Ptolemy 2 is Philadelphus. Okay, and so on. Now, these are in sequence. To understand the rest of the middle part of Daniel 11, we need to look at these kings down here. Okay, and I put them. This chart is not according to the dates of the kings itself. Okay, it's slightly shifted. Okay, but if you look at the chart, you will find that there's a pattern. The king of the north attack the south. The king of the north attack the south. The king of the south attack the north. So north to south, north to south, south to west, and then they repeat the pattern. Okay, so there seems to be a pattern over there, and the kings they are attacking. Okay, so this is the picture that is happening over there. So this is the overview. Okay, so that when I go on to the little details, you find that if you understand the overview, you sort of understand the rest of Daniel chapter 11 much better. Okay, otherwise, Daniel 11 is very, very confusing. Okay, let's see why. All right, in verse 5, okay, in verse 5, he says that, and sorry, okay, verse 5, and the king of the south shall be strong, and one of the prince, okay, and one of his princes, he shall be above him, okay, and have dominion. So what happened is that we started off, okay, remember there were 4 kingdoms, okay, Seleucus 1 was the big empire, but what happened was the other 2 came in and attacked him, okay, and he lost Syria for a short while. So Seleucus went down south and partnered with Ptolemy, okay, they combined with Ptolemy. Ptolemy was the king in the south. So the king in the south is Ptolemy 1, Soter, okay, and then Seleucus came down to ask him for help, okay, and then together they went up, and then they went and they captured Syria again, and then actually went on and took over the other two nations. Okay, so Seleucus 1 becomes very much stronger. That's what the Bible says. Okay, he shall be strong above him. Okay, referring to Seleucus. All right, and Seleucus almost wanted to go and capture Egypt, but then he was reminded that actually Ptolemy was one who helped him. Okay, all right. In verse 6, okay, that was Ptolemy 1. In verse 6, at the end of the year, they, okay, shall join together. So in this case itself, he is talking about the second rulers of the 2 nations, Ptolemy 2, Antiochus 2. All right, how did they join up? Now this one, almost all those other prophecies have this detail inside. Okay, what happened was in those days, they like to intermarry to keep a sort of a treaty. So what happened is, okay, the king of the south, that is Ptolemy, make a treaty with Antiochus, and then he said, okay, to seal the treaty, I'm going to send my daughter, okay, my daughter to marry you, okay, and then because of that, they'll make a treaty. All right, so Ptolemy gave Paris to Antiochus, but Antiochus at that time was married to a lady called Laodice. Okay, she was a very powerful woman. That was the reason why Antiochus married her in the first place. Okay, but when this offer came, he divorced Laodice, the original wife. The original wife has 2 sons. Divorced and then threw her away, and then went to Paris. Okay, when Ptolemy died, okay, Seleucus decided, oh, Paris is of no use. So he went back to the former wife. The former wife is quite powerful. took all the former wives, Laodice, to come back in. Okay, Laodice felt a little bit insecure, and according to in chapter 6 itself, okay, Laodice came and he actually killed the king, Ptolemy. Okay, he poisoned Beris. Okay, and let me see what else did he say. Okay, shall not retain the power of the arm. We shall, okay, yeah, and also kill all those people who came with Beris. Okay, the Egyptian maids, the soldiers, and the children of Beris. Okay, kill them off. And what happened was Laodice put his own son and herself, okay, as the ruler of the north now. Okay, the son is called Seleucus II Cornicus. Okay, so that was the history, and it fulfilled that verse itself. Okay, verse 7. Okay, all right. Now what happened was that Beris died. Okay, because the father Ptolemy II died. Okay, but the son of Ptolemy II became the king, and he was not very happy with what happened. So he was very angry, and so he stood up and he took an army and he went up to the north, king of the north, Antiochus II. Okay, and he went in. Actually, he won. He actually captured the whole place. All right, and after capturing the whole place, now this king here, this Ptolemy III, was not interested in ruling. He's more interested in getting the power, and at the same time eating and feasting and enjoying himself. So he did not stay long in Egypt. Instead, what he did was he actually took all the gold and silvers, and including the Egyptian gods that were captured before him. All right, and then he went back home. Okay, he went back home himself. All right, you can read through that one later. He went back home with all the gold and all those things. Now, the Egyptians, especially the priests and so on, was very happy because he brought all the golden idols back. Okay, and so they were so happy. They gave him a name. Okay, Eugetis, a benefactor. Okay, he brought all the golds back, so the people treated him as a benefactor itself. Okay, that's where he got his title. All right, and then he left Egypt. I'm sorry, he left Syria, and then he went back home. Okay, and what happened was that it says in the Bible that okay, not this one. Okay, yeah, verse 8. He shall continue more years than the king of the north. Okay, what happened was the king of the north, the little boy, okay, he was put in exile. He was sent to exile, and then while he was riding a horse, he fell off and he died. Okay, so the king of the south actually survived a few more years than the king of the north. Okay, that is in verse 8. Okay, all right. I hope you're getting the picture. Okay, if you want a fuller picture, like I said, go and read Uriah Smith. Okay, he has a lot more details inside there. Okay, all right, verse 9. Okay, so the king of the south shall come into his kingdom. I mentioned this already. Okay, he returned back. Okay, so that he can enjoy himself. Okay, all right, next verse. Verse 10. Verse 10. Okay, verse 10 talk about the two sons. Okay, now there are two sons, the older brother and younger brother. Okay, so when the father died in exile, the older brother, Seleucus III, okay, went on to become the ruler, but apparently he wasn't a very good ruler. Okay, and so what happened was his own people, his own army's generals came and poisoned him. Okay, he tried to take over the throne, but the younger brother, Antiochus III, okay, Magnus, okay, he is a more capable person. He can control the army very well. So Antiochus III came into the place, chased away the rebels, and took over the throne. All right. And he was, like I said, he was a very capable general. He can control the army very well. And he actually conquered a few places around. And then he thought of going down to Egypt to conquer Egypt. But what happened was apparently the news went on, and the Egyptians and the Syrians, they make peace with each other. There's a truce, so they did not attack. All right, but it's quite interesting. Even though they had this truce, they still prepare the army, okay, just in case the other side comes in. All right. Verse 11, he says that the king of the south shall move with choler. He was very angry and went to fight with the king of the north. All right, and the king and the multitude and the multi-ship shall be given into his, the king of the south, hand. Okay, all right. So what happened was that, like I said, they actually, even though there's a truce, right, they still built up the army. Okay, both parties, okay, still built up the army and actually plan to attack each other. Okay, apparently from this record itself, the king of the south came up first. Okay, he was prepared, more prepared first. He came up to the north and they fought. Okay, apparently also from the history books itself, the king of the south, that is Ptolemy the fourth, okay, actually went and conquered, okay, the land of Syria, but he didn't stay there. Okay, he didn't stay there. He went back, wanted to go back. Now there was a battle of Raphia that was mentioned here. It's a very famous battle in the Egyptian army, Egyptian war. Okay, Antiochus with his army coming down south, and Antiochus went up there. The battle in Raphia, and of course the king of the south won. Okay. King of the south won. The king of the north had to run away, and even though he ran away, he went and conquered other places. Okay, so that was what it is. Okay, all right. That's the battle of that. I'm going quickly on because I'm trying to go to the last part. Looks like our time is running out. Okay, I'm going to want to try to finish the first part. Okay, and I'm going to keep the last part for the next section because the last part is very vital. It has to do with us. So let me just quickly go on. Okay, all right. So they fight to and fro. Verse 13, verse 14 again. They fight each other. And in verse 14, there is another group. Okay, that was mentioned. Okay, yep, the Egyptian and the Syrians were fighting. Then suddenly there was a group mentioned. They are called the robbers of thy people. Okay, thy people refers to the Israelite. Okay, so a third power came into play over here. All right, and if you look back at the statue, okay, after Greece, you have the Romans. So this next group that comes in are the Romans. Okay, so they talked about the Romans. I'm going to go quickly through this one. Okay, the breakers of the people are the Romans itself. So Romans came in. All right. Now, at that time, what happened was Egypt, the prince, the one who took over Egypt was just a small boy. So the northern kingdom, they decided to combine forces. Philip is from Macedonia, that is in the west itself. They decided to combine forces and then come down and capture the Ptolemy in Egypt itself. But the Romans came in and sort of intercede for the south. All right, so that is what happened over here. Okay, King of the North came down and took the most fenced city, that is Sidon. Sidon in those days was very well fenced. Okay, and that shall be that. Okay, so okay, the Romans came in several times to warn them off. Okay, eventually what happened was they didn't listen to the Romans. The Romans went into Syria itself and actually captured the Syria and took the king Antiochus IV, okay, to Egypt to exile. Okay, all right. So in verse 16, actually they start to talk about Pompey. All right, Pompey went and they actually captured Antiochus IV, brought him to exile. Okay, later on, they went back and took the other children and then killed him, and Antiochus went back. Okay, Antiochus is a big name. Okay, many of the other prophecies, other groups, when they prophesy, they always think that Antichrist is Antiochus IV, Epiphanes. This is the one. Okay. All right. So Pompey came, captured him. Okay, put him in exile itself. All right, I'm going to skip all those things down here. Okay, let's go on. Okay, here in verse 17. Okay, verse 17 talks about also the Romans. Now we are talking about Romans. So after Pompey came another general called Julius Caesar. All right, Julius Caesar and Pompey were not, they were loggerhead with each other. All right, Pompey felt that he's a better general than Julius Caesar, so there was this loggerhead, and so they fought, and then Julius Caesar chased after Pompey. All right, and when he chased after Pompey itself, he actually went into Egypt. Okay, and he met this lady called Cleopatra. I think you all know the story of Cleopatra. All right, so what happened was that when Julius Caesar went to Egypt, okay, Pompey went in first, but Pompey actually created a lot of problem with the Jews in Alexandria. Okay, there was a large group of Jews in Alexandria. Pompey went and then killed quite a number of them. So the Jews in Alexandria was not very happy. When Julius Caesar came in, okay, the Jews in Alexandria actually helped Julius Caesar, okay, to go on his way. And of course, you know, Cleopatra itself, spend the time and look at that. Okay, then Julius Caesar went around conquering the islands, okay, the coastal part of Egypt. Okay, and then verse 19. Okay, verse 19 says that Julius Caesar, after conquering, turned and went back to his own land. So he went back to Rome. Okay, when he went back to Rome, the people there realized that he wanted to become the emperor. Okay, and they were not happy. And of course, I think if you read the story in William Shakespeare's play, okay, Julius Caesar went back and then he was sabotaged by his own friend. Okay, his friend Brutus. He was so shocked that Brutus, you also, okay, and so on. Mark Antony was the one who gave a speech after that. Anyway, the Bible says that Caesar stumbled and fell and not to be found. All right, and there is a word that they use, the word reproach. Okay, reproach actually comes from the Hebrew word chapa, which means sounds like a sword. Okay, so Julius Caesar fell and stumbled and he was actually killed by the sword. Okay, that was sword Bible prophecy. So that is the history that we know. Very famous history because of William Shakespeare. All right. Okay, after him, something is missing down here. Okay, I think I missed some history. Okay, anyway, after Caesar, there were 3 other kings that came together. Okay, Caesar adopted son, Octavius, Mark Antony, the one who gave the speech. I came, okay, today not to bury Caesar, but and then he went on and praised that one. Okay, and then another person like Peter. So they form, instead of emperor, they form what they call the triumvirate, 3 persons as a senate. Okay, they will decide. Okay, now Octavius is the one that is in the Bible that was mentioned. He was Augustus Caesar. Okay, and Augustus Caesar was the one who created the taxation. Okay, that makes Jesus have to come back. Okay, he's the one who raised tax. In Daniel chapter verse 22, 11:22, he says that, and shall stand up in his estate a raiser of taxes. In his estate refers to Caesar estate. Okay, a raiser of taxes, that is referring to Augustus Caesar. Okay, now interestingly enough, in history, most of the kings that comes, they died. Like for example, I mentioned Mark Antony, I mentioned Lepidus, the 3 of them. Okay, 2 of them died. Okay, in battle. So only 1 left, and the only one left was Augustus Caesar. Augustus Caesar wasn't killed. Okay, in the Bible it says this: he shall be destroyed, but not in anger, not in battle. He died of old age. So that fulfills verse 20, Augustus Caesar. Okay, all right. Time is going off. After Augustus Caesar, okay, he's another adopted child. Okay, Tiberius, and Tiberius was there. And Tiberius won his way not because he was the rightful owner, rightful king, not because he was a good general, but not that fantastic a general. But he actually went and he made friends, and he very diplomatic. He made friends with all the leaders, and so they put him as the emperor. Okay, after Augustus. Tiberius Caesar, we read about him in the Bible. He was the Caesar that was there when Jesus was born. Okay, that is the Tiberius Caesar. And that was why in verse 22, okay, he mentioned, yeah, also the prince of the covenant shall be broken. Okay, Jesus was killed during his time. All right, so verse 22 tells you about when Jesus came. Jesus came about the same time as this guy, Tiberius. Okay, there's a lot of history there. Okay, I'm going to skip that one first. Okay, all right. After I mentioned this before, when the Messiah came, before the Messiah is political power. After the Messiah come and died, the powers that were mentioned, not individuals, but powers that were mentioned or system that were mentioned were more religious. Okay, there's a slant, there's a change. So after verse 22, when the Messiah was killed, okay, the rest of Rome, when we talk about Rome, we look in terms of the religious power. So this is when the papacy, okay, is put into prophecy. All right, time is up. Let me see, there's quite a lot more. Okay, 4 o'clock. We will probably continue with the rest of this, okay, in the next section. The next section is very important in the sense that after verse 40 is talking about our days. All right, things that are happening in our days itself. And Ellen G. White in her writing keep emphasizing on that thing itself. Let me just go and jump forward a bit. Okay, the crusade, all right. Ellen G. White's comment, okay, that Daniel is actually for the last days. That's referring to us. Okay, and she said this, that right now, there is a time of Ellen G. White. Right now, the Daniel's prophecy is being fulfilled, in the process of fulfillment. All the events foretold will soon come to pass. That's why we want to look at the last part of Daniel 11 very carefully. Okay, again, she mentioned in volume 9 testimony. Okay, Daniel 11 chapter of Daniel nearly reached its complete fulfillment. Okay, so the next session will be vital for that. Okay, again, other things, okay, again mentioned, okay, in the 30th verse, oops, okay, in Daniel 11, 30th verse, he said that the history will repeat itself. Okay, history will repeat itself. And so we're going to see things that are repeated. So when we look at Daniel chapter 11, verse 30, the things that happened there, the sheets of Kittim and all those will be repeated again in the last days. All right, okay, I'm going to skip all that. And yep. Okay, yep. The rest will be there. So sorry, I have to go a little bit fast on that part itself. Okay, what I would suggest you want to do is start reading up on Daniel 11. It's a little bit confusing initially. Okay, like I said, if you put it side by side with the rest of the prophecies that were there, you see a good picture of it. Okay, next section, we're going to look at the last few days, the last few verses of chapter 11, and then see how it links to our day. All right, and then the end of chapter 12. Chapter 12 is very exciting. So what really happens in the last day? Okay, I know I went a little fast, so anyone has any questions, any part?
I think it's a bit, wow, I won't say it's confusing. I guess it's probably a lot got to do with historical events. The first 11 to 12 verses of chapter 11, actually, you know, so that comes later. But I guess you will have the book on Uriah Smith. I guess it will help a bit because he actually go verse by verse, and he actually gave the historical events quite, in fact, very thorough, you know. And if you are not a great fan of history, then can be a bit tough. That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
Right. So
the first part, if you like history, is good to read up. Okay, and like I said, Uriah Smith Daniel and Revelation is free on the internet. You can always download and see. But if you are not interested, then you just look at the main part, you realize that, hey, all these are being fulfilled. And it comes exactly as what is mentioned. Okay. What is more important is the last part of Daniel 11 and Daniel 12, because that is our days. Okay, that
Correct.
part you don't understand. Yep. That's
And-
correct, that's Chris. Yep.
Just a note, all right, Winky. You're gonna have the last part on the 5th of December, is it?
Yeah, looks like there is. How are you going?
Yeah,
off?
I think we have one group that's going to be away on the 5th of December. So I may suggest that, look, can we do it on the 12th of December, I guess?
12th of December. I guess I can put it over to the 12th. I shouldn't have any appointment at that time.
That would be much appreciated because we have
Okay.
probably about at least 8 people will be away, I guess.
Okay, yep, okay, fine. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, will give me a
Thanks
little
for
bit
thanks
more.
for considering that.
No problem. I mean, we are here to help each other to learn.
Yeah.
So,
And it's true, the last part of it is actually critical because it is the last day's events anyway. And I think it's
yes.
better for us to actually appreciate that last portion.
If okay, maybe in the next 3 weeks, I'd like you to look at the world events. Okay, like I mentioned, what's happening over in Europe. It's very important because the shift is no longer in Middle East now. The shift has moved to Europe and to US. So look at what's happening in US, what's happening in Europe. And of course, India and China, they will still have a problem. But what is vital is look at Middle East. Okay, Middle East. The Arabian countries are now making peace talks with Israel. Okay, but Iran is still having problems. So like I mentioned earlier on, actually Israel actually went and bombed the Iranians installation in Syria, blow them up, quite a number of installations. So that is another interesting place to look at. Okay, the other place I want you to look at is France in Europe. Okay, these are the countries you have to look at. When we come back, next session, I'll explain a little bit more in all those things, but look at what's happening. Okay, look at the US elections. I believe that this is the same thing